to Facebook Live. I'm Stan the Fan from Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. With me is my co-host, Gary Stein. Mr. Stein, how are you doing?
Stanley, I'm ready to tip it off tonight with you and our guest.
It is a tip-off. We had one basketball guest about 5 weeks ago. We had Jimmy Patzos on. But tonight, we are joined by an old friend, and I do mean old friend, Pat Skerry, the head coach men's basketball at Towson University. We're viewing him on Pat's iPad. How are you, Coach Skerry? How you doing?
I'm great. It's great to be here. I'm not quite as entertaining as Jimmy Patzos, but I hope I could be in the same ballpark.
All right. Hey, you know, it dawned on me when I knew we were having you today. I said, how many years has it been? And this is going to be your 10th season at Towson. Has it kind of struck you, is that what you hoped for when you got here to Towson? Or did you view it like, I'll do 4 or 5 years there and I'll somewhere else? You become a fixture here, Pat.
Well, my family and I love working at Towson and living here, so hopefully we can be here a long time. Sometimes I think it's 16 years. Stan, the first year was like 7 years. It was a hard year. Towson's a great job. I jumped around a lot as an assistant, trying to climb the ladder. But I've always said, the definition of a good job is somewhere where you can win, you can make a living, and hopefully not worry about getting fired. So to me, Towson is an unbelievably great job.
It's funny that after the first year, I got asked to find a sports guest for a breakfast. It was out in I kind of want to say it was out in Westminster or something like that. And you and I drove out separately, but it was for a group of Boy Scouts. It was an 8 o'clock in the morning breakfast with their parents. And I brought you out there to teach them a lesson about what somebody does when times are tough, because it was after that 1-31 first year. You were kind enough that you didn't think that was a bad idea at all. You remember that?
Those Boy Scouts are the only ones that were nice to me that first year, Stan. You know what? The one thing that year taught me, I was fortunate. If I was on a staff that won 30 games the year before at Pitt, and then obviously our second year we set an NCAA record, and a lot of the stuff we do is the same. It's the same. Obviously, you need talent is always a baseline, but there is a process in order to get better. So, I hope I've grown a lot since that first year, and I think I have. Honestly, I should have done a better job that first year. I think our guys worked hard. They got better. We just didn't necessarily have the results didn't necessarily show it.
Pat, you in answering Stan's last question about you being here now for 10 years, you made a comment. You kind of slipped over it a little bit, but your comment was, that you bounced around a lot before you got here. And when I looked you up online before the interview, if I have my math correct, I think you were at no less than 8 jobs, 8 different assistant coaching or head coaching jobs in the previous 15 years before you came to Towson in 2010. So having said that, my question is, what is that life like with small kids and a wife and a family? There's a personal side to your life, obviously, in complement to your professional side. What is that like to move around and maintain trust in your family and them with you to know that things are going to be okay?
That's a really good question. And yeah, I've got an unbelievable wife, and she's a great friend, my wife, Kristen, and we do have 2 boys, 15 and 11, Ryan and Owen. That's the piece I think people see on the sideline, and that's exciting and fun. But there's a lot of regrets in having moved my family around, and I had to fly back in for my son's first day at kindergarten because he was still in Rhode Island. I was in Pittsburgh, and then come back. So that's the piece I think when, and hopefully you guys do a great job when people get to meet coaches and learn about them, that there is some things, you miss some stuff with families and hobbies and friend trips. I wouldn't trade coaching for anything. I'm privileged to get to do what I do, but it's that's not a fun thing. It's just not. Even when you have a big opportunity and you're excited about it, it's not all it's cracked up to be. That's why my son, he loves sports. He's really getting into it, and he mentioned like last year about a pro coach getting fired. He didn't do a good job, and it's like, whoa, wait a second. That's like there's married, got kids. Like that's not a, it's a tough part about the job. I'm certainly blessed to be here, but there's certain things, Gary. I look back and say, man, I didn't make that easy on everybody.
Mm-hmm. And Coach, a follow-up to that question, and I want to talk, and I'm sure we will talk more about your relationship with your team, and how that's been affected by the current situation, COVID, et cetera. But just out of curiosity, do you ever talk to your team about that kind of life? Do you ever talk to them about what you've been through as you also hear them about what they're going through in their lives?
Yeah, I try to, especially individually. Sometimes I think the hardest challenge is can you get younger guys like that to speak publicly about stuff. But I think when you get guys one-on-one, it's one of our guys the other day, Solomon Yalamo, is going to be a very successful business guy at some point. And he was talking about that and making money. And I said, look, it's not all about that. It's a grind. And he said, you're making money. I said, I am. It took about 15, 16 years. I told him my first year coaching, when I was an assistant at Tufts, my first year I made $300 coaching. That's what I. So
that's not jumbo money.
No, I told him, and he was surprised to hear I was a substitute teacher. I got my refereeing license for basketball, soccer. I got my bartending license as well.
Wow.
And it just there's a lot of trade-offs that go into that stuff. I think the thing, coaching is awesome, and coaching is coaching at any level. I don't care if you're at the pros or high school. But I think when guys ask me about getting into it, I'm like, it's not what you just see on the sideline. There's a lot that goes into this that you got to really be ready for.
We're talking with Pat Skerry. Pat, I was looking up some things on your record before. So your first head coaching job was at Curry College. Their nickname was the Colonels, and they're located in, I said, the Colonels, they must be in Kentucky. They're in Milton, Massachusetts. And they were a school that started like in the 1800s. And it was originally a school of elocution and expression. I guess you didn't go to school there.
Listen, that's one of the best jobs I've ever had. I had a great athletic director, Pam Samuelson, and a very passionate president, Ken Quigley, who's done a lot for that school, who's still there. I'm forever grateful for that. So they took a chance on a 26-year-old guy to be their
So what happened after the 2 years? Because you were 24 and 25. Was it that you sort of made a conscious decision, I got to go in this vagabond life for a few years to try and get a mid-level Division I job?
I always my goal and dream was to become a Division I head coach, Stan. I get to Curry, and it was an awesome job. And I can tell you this, I made $26,000 my first year there, and I met my wife, Kristen. She worked in admissions there. We've been married for 21 years. So the second year I go to Curry, I started camps. They were having me teach a couple classes. I doubled the money. We worked our tail off. I get engaged, and I get hired at Northeastern. I told my wife, I get good news and bad news. She goes, well, give me the good news. I said, we're going Division I. She goes, well, what could be the bad news? I said, the job is $12,000. So I did it. Like I said, there's sacrifice, but my goal was always to get into Division I, and I wanted to be a Division I head coach. But Curry's one of the best jobs I've ever had. I made a million mistakes, and I appreciate them taking a chance on me, but you learn from that.
So as Gary alluded to, you had 7, 8 stops along the way. Now you come into this interview with, am I right? It was athletic director, was Mike Waddell, who you said at your press conference he would scare a cup of coffee. He had so much energy. What did you do? How did you feel the interview went with Mike Waddell?
So no, I'm going to give you an unbelievable story. They were working me hard. I'm an assistant at Pitt with a 1 seed and going to an NCAA tournament, and that just put me in a different light.
Is that under Jamie Dixon?
Yes.
Okay.
So I interview at like 8 a.m. out in where the heck were we? I brought my wife out. Never brought her out. We're out in where was that? It might have been Houston. I guess it was out in Houston. So she comes out with me. We interview, and this guy running the search, and Mike Waddell texted me, said, "You hit it out of the park. We'll call you later." 6 o'clock at night, I haven't heard anything yet. I'm getting worried. It's like, what's going on? I get a call from the search firm. Hey, they're in negotiations with someone else. I'm devastated. We're flying home the next morning. I'm miserable. We're on our way to the airport. The search firm calls me. I'm like, no way. My wife said, take the call. I pick up the phone. They go, look, this is going to sound a little weird, but there might be a snafu. Would you go back to a hotel and wait around for a potential call for an interview with the president?
Wow.
So my wife jumps on the plane. Now, meanwhile, I got no clothes. I folded them all up, the suit, everything. This is true. I go back to the hotel. I'm out of the room. I got to stay with a friend. I wait there all day. At around 5 o'clock, they call me. Can you meet us in an hour? I'm like, yeah, I can. I go and meet at the time. Dr. Corrett was our president, the former chancellor. Unbelievable guy, awesome guy.
Yeah.
We go search firm. Correct. We sit down for an hour. They're like, we'll call you tomorrow. I leave. I go, I'm pumping gas in a rental car. Dr. Correct calls me, goes, you want the job? I said, hell yeah, I want the job. So that's how I got it. It was wild. But I'll tell you what, I haven't regretted a minute since we got here. Towson's really an awesome place.
I'm dying to know before Gary takes over for a couple. What did you wear to the interview with Dr. Corrett?
I had a gold tie. I have to tell you that.
Very good. Very good.
All right, Gary.
Coach, and I'm a Towson grad, so I'm connected to the university. But it is interesting, though, and I know that it's difficult to get a Division I job. There's not a lot of them. There's a finite amount of them in this country, obviously. But Towson was coming off of 15 consecutive losing years. And the coach that you were going to take over for actually was sanctioned by the NCAA for some academic issues. I don't remember off the top of my head, to be honest with you. The question is, what did you love about the job?
Yeah, most of my mentors told me not to do it. I learned when I was a Division III assistant at Tufts University, the old AD, the Iraqi Karslow, used to tell me the two hardest things to change in sports are tradition and geography. The one thing I thought we had was geography. We're in an unbelievable basketball area. And I was 41 years old. I'd coached since I was 22. So I like I said, I just wanted I wanted a shot. I just felt like let's do it. So, I never thought twice about it, Gary. Now I'll tell you, that first year was harder than I thought. Kevin Clark's been with me for a long time on staff, and I don't probably give him the appreciation he deserves. Pat O'Connell, local guys, those guys have been with me. Like Kevin, 9 out of 9 years. Pat, 8 out of 9 years. We're still driven by. We haven't finished the job, Gary. We haven't finished the job, but we do take pride in not only have we had a good fixed up an academic situation, but we've had the most top 3 finishes in the CAA over the last 8 years. Now that's not good enough, but it's been an exciting time to think I've been able to spend a decade here, whether it was good or not good. It's just about getting after it every day. Like there's not a day where I'm not excited to get in the office, and it was like that when we were getting our teeth kicked in.
Mm-hmm. Coach, let me ask you one more quote unquote historical question. I'm sure Stan will kind of bring us up to date, and we'll get into what's going on now. But if you just said, and I agree with you, the two hardest things that you can't change basically are tradition and geography. Absolutely right. But maybe the third hardest thing would be to change a losing culture. And that's certainly something that you walked into, and by your own admission, continued for that first, however, that first year, et cetera. Towson at one point had a record losing streak in NCAA basketball history. But then you followed it up with the biggest single season turnaround year over year. And so the question is, how did you stop the losing culture?
There's a guy named Jarrell Benjamin and a bunch of play with him. Let's get one thing straight, and I mean this. We ran the exact same sets my first year as we did my second year. The end result was better with the guy putting the ball in the basket.
Right.
Now, I think we did some things our first year to try to establish that cliche word culture, but how we practiced, how we lifted, how we watched film, and hopefully that carried over. But, good players, Damas, Guthrie, Burwell, those guys, as we drink the water now, those guys help dig the well, and me, and I've had some arguments with some good players. Jarrell Benjamin is the most impactful player ever to play at Towson because it was in a better league, the Colonial. He was two-time player of the year. And that's the only time we've ever had a player of the year in the history of the CAA. So good players are always a baseline.
Coach, you said something just a couple of minutes ago. You said, we haven't really finished the job, but we've got, most third place finishes and, in CAA in the last such and such years. Why isn't it good enough? In other words, what should Towson aspire to? Because you've done an incredible job at graduating your players and moving up the GPA of the student athletes that come under your guidance. So why isn't that enough?
Well, first of all, we're in a profession that's never enough. You know that you cover it. It's never enough. And if we're fortunate enough to win it, we got to win a game in the tournament, and you got to win 2 games in the tournament. That's the, like what they say in The Godfather, right? That's what we signed up for. But I also think, like, what people forget, and I think most coaches are like this, and I work for a lot of good coaches and with a lot of really good assistants. Anytime we break down tape, if we're fortunate enough to win a game, we're still watching the tape saying, man, we did this wrong. We got to do this better. So you're looking for perfection. That's the quest. You're never going to find it, but that's what you're shooting for.
The UMBC win over Virginia, it's now what, 4 years ago? 3 years ago, I think. 3 years ago. Did that help schools like Towson, or did it put more of a bullseye on your back? That, hey, they did it. Why can't we do it?
Well, I mean, I don't. Probably both.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you can't say that a 16 will never beat a 1 again. But that's why you play the games, right? It's the beauty of college basketball. It's not a series. It's one game, and who's better for 40 minutes. And very rarely does the best team win the national championship. It just doesn't happen that way. But I mean, I looked at that more as a fan and just being excited to see guys I know and like win. Now we play them every year, and I'm you guys know I'm as easy a guy as there is, but for 2 hours it's an out of body experience. You're going to try to, and that's at practice too. We're going to try to annihilate whatever's in front of us. But after that, you're rooting for guys and like, especially locally. And that was amazing win. I don't know if it'll happen again.
Yeah.
Coach, let's get current. So much to talk about, with COVID and things closing down and schools not opening, and I don't have go on and on. What has this off season looked like for you? How has it changed, or for better or for worse? I don't know. You tell me. The relationship between you, the coaching staff, and the players. Like, what's happening right now with everybody?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? I mean, first of all, I think I know I'm more appreciative to coach than ever before. I'm sure we all are, whether that's our health, our family, right? This is, I mean, no one ever thought this. I mean, I'm thankful for President Schatzel and our AD, Tim Leonard, like, that we're able to practice. We got protocols. Like I told, we got a lot of work to do to get better, but I'm also saying every day we're practicing. That's unbelievable. I think the hardest thing for me as a coach, you want to plan and control everything. And what I've learned more so even recently, because this is still going on, is, we're not controlling much right now. The virus is controlling, and the ability to execute simple responsibility for 18 to 22, 23 years old is really what's going to dictate the success of the season.
So every year, normal situation, college basketball season starts first week in November, basically the first couple of months, a couple of tournaments. You've got 12, 15 non-conference games, you kind of gear up. January 1, you start your conference play, etc. This season, we're 4 or 5 weeks behind. Never is the preseason, the first couple games, crisp anyway, right? What are you expecting from your team, quote unquote, non-conference preseason wise? What's the level of basketball that you're looking for at that point?
That's a really, really good question. I mean, look, we've got 9 non-conference games, and we're going to treat them all like the Super Bowl. But the reality is we've got to be able to evaluate that, and are we getting better? Because it's really, more than ever, it's just going to matter for your conference play. But look, I'm going to tell you right now, we're playing all the good local teams, UMBC, right, Morgan, Coppin. We're playing 3 games up in Connecticut, Mohegan Sun, St. Bonaventure, Rhode Island, Stephen F. Austin. And then we're playing 3 more A-10 teams, LaSalle, George Mason, GW. So it's a hard schedule. But for a lot of us around here, we lost the Ivies, the Patriots. Who can you play?
Right.
So the only thing we were stuck with is having to play a lot of really good programs. But I think it's an opportunity to get better. I mean, look at these student athletes. I mean, obviously we're all selfish because we're worried about our guys, but this isn't what these guys signed up for, Gary. This isn't the normal experience. So, you just say, look, we got to get better. We got to get better. And the fact that we're going to get to play the games, I think the kids appreciate it. They've, in a lot of ways, they probably handle it better than the adults.
Coach, you can't get better unless you got a good floor general. And you've been all over the map with the guys leading your team over your 9 years at Towson. What do you think of Jason Gibson and his ability?
I love him. Is
he like you on the floor a little bit?
He's a lot better than I was. He's got a lot nicer disposition than I had too. He's just intelligent. He makes guys better. He's a really good teammate. He can shoot it. He's just a really, really good quarterback. He's a guy you can win with.
And tell me about how it came to be that Zane Martin, who I know you liked and you recruited him once, he transferred. I don't know that I've ever heard this happen before. He transferred. He left your program and went to New Mexico State, was it?
University of New Mexico, yep.
The University of New Mexico. He was there for 1 year, I believe. And then all of a sudden, your assistant, Pat O'Connell, gets a call, and you're on the phone with him a few minutes later. And what happened? Well, how did it come to be that he's back in town?
Yeah. You know what? It wasn't the script. Look, I recruited Zane out of high school. I've always loved Zane as a kid. He broke our heart He broke my heart a couple. I told him that on the phone. But we had a scholarship middle of August. Coach O'Connell, who's done a great job for us, said Zane reached out. He called. He apologized. Said he made a mistake. And when I really looked at him, one, he's a good player. Let's get that straight. He's a really good player. Look, at transfer rules have changed. Zane thought he did what was best for Zane when he left. And
he's someone that aspires to play at the higher level.
Yeah, and he's got a chance to do that. If he comes and does what he's got to do, what any good player has to do: handle his books, continue to be a good teammate, continue to be competitive, work hard. But he's talented. I mean, he averaged 20 a game as a sophomore. He goes out to the Mountain West, one of the best leagues in the country. They played him at the point, but he wasn't really a point. He was 3rd in the conference in assist to turnover ratio. He's really, really gifted player. So yeah, we were excited to get him back. I mean, you put him and Gibson out there and Timberlake, should be the best perimeter we've ever had. Veteran Ja'Kai Dotton back there. But yeah, look at the transfer rules are going to change too. I want to coach my guys hard. I think we do that, but I hope I have some empathy for them. You know what I mean? Because we got to win, but the relationships you get to make with guys are really what this is all about. And I told that when Zane, when he called, I don't know if this is going to work out, but I hope if I see you in a gym in 15 years from now, we can sit down and talk about family, kids, your pro experiences. But I'm glad he's back. I mean, I'm going to get after him on certain days, but he's a good guy and he's a really good player.
Hey, Coach, continuing on that line, talk a little bit about your inside game. You got a pair of brothers from
Nigeria,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And one of them's a 7-footer, not common. I think maybe only the second 7-footer to ever play at Towson. I mean, that's got to be a pretty big benefit to a coach.
Yeah, I mean, so Solomon Yalalamo had a good freshman year for us. We had to clean out his knee last year, so we had to redshirt him. He's come back. He looks great. And then his brother Victor, who is a 7-footer, transferred from Southern Cal, sat out. Yeah, Victor's all of 7 feet. He moves well. He's got a lot of gifts. He can actually shoot it. He's got a good feel, and he can move, and he can change things defensively. So we got a chance to be good up front. And because we also returned Charles Thompson and Jawan Gray, who both played a lot of minutes for us. But Victor and Solo, Victor's very, very extroverted and a funny guy. Solo is very introverted, business-like. So it's also interesting. They've had a couple of days where they've gotten at each other. But then they shoot free throws together when we break. So it's neat. You know what? I played with my younger brother in college at Division III. I think that experience that they're going to have is something they're going to remember forever. Hopefully it ends in a championship for us, but I think that's something that's going to be special for them.
Coach, tell me what CQ Arena has meant to your abilities to bring a higher level of player there.
Yeah, I think a lot because it pops. Like you walk in there and it looks like a Division I basketball arena is supposed to look like. I mean, you just went through that, Gary, at UMBC with the transformation. So it's exciting for guys, right? I mean, everyone wants to. That first impression is important. It's been really. You guys come on our campus. It's been amazing. Talk about going here 10th year. It's amazing to think about. We have the footbridge now, all this new housing, science center, our rec center, all the changes we've made in athletics. Like we didn't have any of that stuff. And then the stuff that's grown in Towson. I mean, like who wouldn't want to live around here and go to school here?
Tell us a little bit about the game experience this year. How many fans can come into games?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think some of that's still evolving.
Okay.
And we've had a couple like preliminary logistic meetings, and they're really working on like the playbook that the NCAA gave. I think that we're gonna whatever the governor's guidelines are, that's what we're gonna abide by. But yeah, it's kind of this weird unknown. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things you just don't know how it's gonna go.
Yeah. It would seem like it would be like 400 people or 500, something like that. That's a guess. Yeah.
Pat, along those same lines, like fundamental day-to-day things that you probably would never have had to think about before, travel, eating together. How are you what are you doing? Does your team eat together? Are they allowed to eat together?
So no, we had a training table last year. It was awesome. It was a big, big boost for us. But Tim Leonard, like Nathan Wilder, Devon Robb, really our whole staff, we've done a really good job at Towson, but like our guys have to fill out these health screens every morning. If there's an issue with that, then they're going to go get tested right away, and they're out. They can't practice. They come in the building. They have temperature check. They have to walk in a certain way. They can only be in the locker room. We got staff in there like Parfait Bate, Brandon McDonough. Those guys have done Kevin Clark, a great job for us. We clean balls. They have their own balls. They've had masks on. We spread out. We don't huddle anymore. We're watching tape, not in the locker room. We're out on the court, spread out. We're about to go to 3 times a week for testing. That's what the NCAA has recommended. We're once a week now. and then they have a snack bag when they leave. Our nutritionist and through our fueling station has done that, but we've done a really good job following protocol. Once again, we've seen this with the NFL and college football. No one can do it like the NBA, right? No one can have a true bubble like the NBA did.
Right.
So these guys aren't getting COVID, or athletes aren't testing positive while they're playing basketball. It's the ability to execute simple responsibility when we leave there, right?
Right. Coach, let me ask you, you're going to be wearing a mask on the sideline?
I am. I wish we invented that about 25 years ago. It's the greatest. It's the greatest invention of all time, just in case the wrong word comes out once in a while.
Right. But when your players are on the bench, not in the game, are they supposed to be wearing masks or no?
I don't know the answer to that yet. I heard yes, but then with trying to figure it out, it's funny because our guys have been practicing with a mask on at first, but it's hard for them to keep it on when they have these high intensity. They get winded pretty quick.
Right.
Coach, we had your counterpart in football on with us back, Gary. What was it, May? Maybe mid-May. And Gary had the good sense to ask him a question about the George Floyd situation out in Minnesota that led to so much civil unrest and the Black Lives Matter. You coach a sport that's predominantly African-American kids. Did anything resonate with you when you watched what happened to George Floyd and the response to that?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot, and I'm both disappointed and embarrassed at times to know that I didn't know some things that I should have known. Demetrius Mims, who you and I talked about the other day, local from Pauley, right? Great player that came back for us. Yeah, really good guy. He probably educated me more than anyone, because when we first had a couple of talks to this as a team, he said to me one of the things that only 14% of the U.S. population was Black. And I remember telling him, no.
Right.
And so I Googled it, and he was right. And I said, I didn't think that. But his point to me was, and all three of us fall into this, he said, Coach, I'm pretty sure if it ain't 14 out of 14, it's at least 13 out of 14% of Black people would like to see some change. But if white men especially don't help with that, it's not going to happen. And for all, we haven't done enough. I know I'm talking to two really good guys, but none of us have done enough. I mean, it's just hurtful to watch that type of stuff. Really hurtful. Yeah.
And then you hear the president's son-in-law say what he said yesterday, which is really pretty despicable, that the president this president's got policies that will help Black people, but the president can't want them to do better. It has to be them wanting to be better, as if somehow some of the injustices are on their shoulders. Getting a little too political.
Well, I'll tell you, we live in an interesting country. If you were going to go to an unbelievable restaurant, right, they're probably going to have a cook that has great experience, right?
Yep.
We have the most powerful position in the country, went to a person that had no experience in politics. So, sometimes you reap what you sow.
Gary, anything else right now?
I tell you, I mean,
it's a great discussion, and we had a very thoughtful discussion with Rob Ambrose 5 months ago. We wish you nothing but the best of luck in season number 10 as the head man at Towson men's basketball. And thank you for doing this tonight, Coach.
Well, I hope to see you guys at the game, that they have some media there, and then hopefully Gary and the Retrievers will be kind to us when we come over there.
I don't know. You guys haven't been too kind to us the last couple of years.
Well, give us one more year, Gary. What the heck?
All right.
Excellent.
See you, for Coach Pat Skerry of Towson Tigers, Gary Stein, I'm Stan the Fan. We're going to take the week off next week. I don't even know if I told you that, Gary.
Yeah,
we're going to take the week off, and we'll be back. Jeff Zreback of The Athletic who covers the Ravens beat, will be our guest on November 11th. And Ross Grimsley and I will be off next week as well, and we'll be back on the 9th. All right. Thank you guys again. Appreciate it.